There's not so much construction these days in the ham radio hobby, but there's plenty of those that still like to build or modify equipment and make some experiments. Is there a cheap way of sourcing those components that used to, or perhaps still do, cost a lot of money? Hello there, and thank you for joining me on this video channel. Let's talk about some component sources. You know, when I first started in ham radio many years ago, the easiest way of getting components was to buy some war surplus gear, just strip it apart. There was plenty of resistors in there, capacitors and all sorts of bits, variable capacitors, and it wasn't that expensive. It was an easy sort of source of components. But then along came Heath kit, and some of us started to build kits, and it was great because all the components you needed were there. But not everybody wanted to build a kit. And then along came Maplin Electronics. You remember Maplin Electronics? They were great, a great source of components. Used to buy lots of components from them, resistors, capacitors, all sorts of things. And of course in Radcom, in the 50s, 60s and 70s, there was a plentiful supply of components. But things started to dry up a bit. And I suppose Maplin disappeared, of course, and as there were less and less people building gear, there was less demand for components. Radio spares, still going strong. They're a great source of components. CPC, Farnell, names that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, source components. But you know, some of those components can be rather expensive. I mean, for example, if you wanted to do some experiment, you just wanted a couple of resistors, a couple of capacitors and so forth, well, if you're going to buy those from main suppliers like RS and CPC, etc., they don't come cheaply and the cost soon stacks up. Well, I've recently been looking at Amazon. And you know, there's some interesting bargains in Amazon. Now, you may say, okay, but what's the quality like? Well, I've been looking at some of the components, and it's quite clear that these components are part of a mass production chain. And my bet is that these components are the same components that end up on circuit boards in gear that you and I buy, or you buy in the domestic scene with TVs and hi-fi, etc, etc. So I decided to purchase some components. What I wanted was a basic source of bits and pieces that I could use to mess about with. So let me just show you what I got from Amazon, and you may find that it's quite an economical way of sourcing some components that you might need to mess about with. We all like messing about, don't we? Now, if you're looking for resistors, this has got to be a great deal. 1,000 resistors, and I think the price is around about 12 or 13 pounds. They're 5% quarter watt resistors. Let me show you what you get in each packet. And by the way, if you're colourblind, no problem, because the value of the resistors is put on the packet. Let me open a packet and show you what you get inside. There we are. That's just one value. I think that's a bargain. 5% resistors. And the value, they start off at, would you believe, 1 ohm. They go up to a couple of mega ohms, I think. But it's great because you can put those resistors that you haven't used back in the packet there, and it's all labelled for you, the value there, the details. There you are, 1,000 resistors. A great buy, I reckon. Next we have a box of 150 ceramic capacitors. They go from 100 puff to 10 nanofarad, and these are high voltage ceramic capacitors. They're rated at 1 kV. So if you're messing about with antennas, you can probably use these. Bear in mind that if you series a capacitor, you halve the capacity, but you do double the voltage rating. So if you want to mess about with antennas and so forth, you could probably get a combination here which would suit you for the purpose that you're looking for. So yeah, ceramic capacitors, 150 pieces, 1 kV rating. They don't say the percentage. They look to me to be 10%, but they were all pretty, when I did random measurements, they were pretty close to the face value. And talking about face values, each capacitor has got its value printed on one side. So if you were unfortunate enough to drop the box on the floor, it would take quite a time to sort through them, but they are all marked. And if you like messing around with antennas, power supplies, or things that require crimped terminals, here you've got a box of 360 pieces of crimped terminals in various colours, and the actual terminals, they're all a completed terminal. They're not open, but I found that you can very easily, with a strong pair of wire cutters, snip these so you can have like a horseshoe terminal. Sometimes you want to put a terminal and you can't actually take the cap fully off. So if you want to use these where the actual terminal won't unscrew completely, you can just, with a pair of strong wire cutters, cut them so that you've got a horseshoe shape. But I think they're great value, 360 pieces. And they look quite good quality. I've used them and haven't found any problem at all with them. Now, heat shrink sleeving is always a very welcome item when you're again messing about with aerials or adjusting lengths of cable and so forth, trying to protect something from the weather. And here we've got a box of 615 pieces of heat shrink sleeving. Each piece is 40 millimeters long, and the smallest diameter is 1 millimeter, and the largest diameter is 10 millimeter. And if I can get one of these out here without spilling the whole lot, that's a 10 millimeter section of heat shrink sleeving. It seems okay. I've used a few pieces and it performs as you'd expect heat shrink sleeving to perform. It's a very useful box of items there, which I'm sure you could use down at the local radio club and just dip in as you needed a piece. And lastly, I got a box of equipment wire. This is actually multi-stranded wire, but you can get hard solid wire as well. Each reel is 4 meters long. 4 meters doesn't sound very long, but really and truly it's going to go a long way if you use it for just connecting bits and pieces up. So again, that's a useful thing to have in the shack, and it's in different colours. I haven't opened them all, I've only opened one, but you can see the idea. So equipment wire is always very useful for connecting up odd things, and it looks quite good. Interestingly enough, it seems to come from Germany, so I'm not quite sure of that, but anyway, the box suggests it comes from Germany. And a nice little touch with this equipment wire is that it comes with a Velcro wrap. So when you've unwound what you need to use, rather than the wire just unwinding itself in the box and making a mess, what you can do is to put this Velcro strap, goes the other way I think, yeah, there we are. Put this Velcro strap over there and it's fastened. Goes back in the box just like that. Nice tidy way of keeping your equipment wire in one place and not having a rat's nest all over the place, all over the bench. Now I've checked these components out and they all seem to be okay. Can't see any problems with them at all. They're in the main 5% tolerance, and that seems to check out okay. And as I said at the beginning, that these components look as if they've come off a mass production line. So I'm pretty sure that the components are actually reasonable quality and shouldn't cause you any problem. As regards cost, the items that I showed you just now, that totaled £50 from Amazon. Now, short intake of breath from some, I'm sure, but wait a minute. When you look at how many you get, if you belong to a radio club, you could quite easily share that lot among 4 people. So that would be about £12.50 for a good selection of resistors, capacitors, heat shrink sleeving, connecting wire and terminals, etc. That's, in my book, not a bad deal. So if you're trying to build up a component list, then take a look at Amazon, because they are offering some good prices, particularly if you share it around amongst yourselves. And of course, you get it the following day, and normally get it the following day anyway. And if you don't like what you get, you can send it back. Of course, you can't use half of the components and send the other half back. But no, I think that there is a chance there to make a significant saving in components if you want to mess about. And it's a really good source. Have a look for yourself, and then have a look at the other suppliers' prices and see. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Anyway, I hope this has given you some ideas for a way of experimenting and a way for being able to afford experimenting, because that's always a bit of a problem. It's nice to experiment, but you think, wait a minute, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. I want this resistor and that resistor, that capacitor. Well, take a look. In the meantime, thanks for supporting this channel. Don't forget to press the subscribe button. Thanks for supporting the Waters and Stanton website and the sales team at Milton Keynes. In the meantime, you enjoy your ham radio, take care, and I look forward to seeing you as usual in the next video. Bye for now.